Coastal Championship Wrestling, CCW, here at Coral Springs High School. The man, okay, so as a wrestler, Phi Delta Slam. And he also does everything behind the scenes now. Dan Evans. Dan, talk a little bit about Rusty. You actually were trained by Rusty, so talk about the experiences.
Everything I know in wrestling, I know from Rusty. It actually started, if you remember, way back. We're talking Global Wrestling Alliance, which was, a local South Florida promotion. I was probably, 17, 18 years old, and always wanted to be a wrestler. We're getting involved with wrestling. I never thought I was quite big enough or anything, so when I saw Global Wrestling Alliance on TV, they had a wrestling school. I went down there to be a referee because I was like probably $1.50, $1.60 at the time, and Rusty was one of the first guys I met. He was a trainer down there, and within about 30 seconds they talked me into being a wrestler from the referee because there was guys way smaller than me, believe it or not, at the time. So that was my foray into professional wrestling, was through Global Wrestling Alliance, and I'm the only idiot that paid the whole tuition up front. And within about a month and a half of paying that tuition, they went belly up and closed down. So Rusty, one of the rings that was there at the wrestling school belonged to Rusty. He moved it to his backyard and started training guys there. And out of the kindness of his heart, he didn't have to, but he knew that I had paid my full tuition to Global, and even though he didn't get anything from that, he never charged me to finish my training there, so that was always great. And Rusty Brooks ran the racquetball shows. They were just the best. That's how we got our start in wrestling. Me and my partner Bruno, and all the guys. David Heath, who's now is Gangrel. It's very well known throughout the world. Obviously, we all started kind of around the same time, and Rusty really got us all involved in it. And it was those racquetball court shows that I was first a referee, and then had my first match there. And then, Rusty was always working with us the whole way through. From our first break where we got a job with, what was it, Eddie Mansfield's International Wrestling Federation was really our first big break. Bruno and I were able to be on TV as a tag team, and that was where we got some notoriety. And then from there went to Puerto Rico. But whenever we come back to South Florida, we'd always be on Rusty shows. Anytime he ran a show, we were always the first guys there helping with the ring. And we'd do anything for Rusty because Rusty taught us, and we wouldn't be wrestlers if it wasn't for Rusty. There wouldn't be any independent wrestling in South Florida if it wasn't for Rusty Brooks. He's the one that started it, and we learned from him. So once we got our feet wet in running shows, we started Coastal Championship Wrestling, and we were off to the races from there. We've actually been doing this for I think about 12 years now, and just running events. And I go back, everything that we do here, we train guys at the wrestling school the same way Rusty taught us, and he's basically the father of professional wrestling in South Florida. So I can't say enough good things about Rusty, and that's it. He's the man.
Thank you, Dan. Fighting Evolution Wrestling here in South Florida. It's great. The man here, JB Cool, he's the man behind it all. JB, we're talking about Rusty Brooks. Tell us something about Rusty. What has Rusty meant to you?
Oh man, Rusty Brooks, a legend in South Florida wrestling. He's done it all. He's been to the big time in the WWF before he hit WWE. He is the guy that initially trained me. Rusty Brooks trained a lot of South Florida wrestlers and got some of the guys on to the big time. And what he means in South Florida wrestling is almost what OVW meant to WWE, and what Heartland Championship back in the day meant to WWE, and what almost now what NXT is to WWE. He was that guy for South Florida's wrestlers to find a place to learn their craft and go on to the next time.
JB, you've done so much throughout your career, and now you're also not only competing, but you're also training wrestlers, running your own promotion. Have you taken anything from Rusty and what you've learned and sort of adapted into your style and what you're teaching?
Oh yeah, one of the things that I always learned from Rusty was, if you're going to do this business, make sure you love it. Make sure you love it, and also have patience, because someone had patience with me, and that was him. And now I take a lot of that, and I take that and instill that into my students. I'm like, hey, have patience. It's gonna come. Don't rush into things. It's gonna happen. It might not be your time yet, but it's gonna happen. And that's one of the biggest things that he taught me when I was training with him.
Fighting Evolution Wrestling, JB Cool, thank you so much.
No, thank you. I appreciate everything you do, Jim.
Anthony Giannazzo at ICW. Anthony's one of the top stars. Anthony, top of the top. You've known South Florida, you know Florida, you know the indie circuit. Ask you about Rusty Brooks. What does Rusty Brooks mean to you?
Rusty Brooks, what he means to me? I wouldn't be here today without Rusty Brooks. I wouldn't be wrestling without Rusty Brooks. He taught me, he trained me, he showed me the way. There would be no Anthony Giannazzo, there would have never been a Tommy Vandal if it wasn't for Rusty Brooks. So I owe Rusty everything in this business. It's owed to Rusty Brooks.
What does he bring? What does he bring as a person, as a coach, as even a wrestler?
I mean, his knowledge of wrestling was unbelievable. When I started training in '99, he taught me the basics. He taught me everything about the business. It wasn't just about in the ring; it was about out of the ring, how to act, the professionalism. He taught everything to me, and I mean, he was my trainer, and you know. What I try to give to the young kids today, it all came from him. So you know what I bring down to the rest of the kids, it all comes from Rusty Brooks. And to this day, when people say, "Hey, who trained you?" I say, "Rusty Brooks trained me." I mean, people they love it. They go, "You know Rusty Brooks?" Rusty Brooks trained me, and I'm proud of it. You know, and I think when people hear that, they go, "Wow," because his name means something to people.
Now I have to ask you, I'll throw this at you, last question.
Yeah.
Is Rusty part of the Breakfast Club?
I mean, if Rusty wants to be part of the Breakfast Club, he's always welcome. You know what? Maybe I'll even take Rusty out to breakfast myself. We can go to IHOP, Denny's, we'll get a nice breakfast, and he'll be an honorary member of the Breakfast Club. How's that sound?
Thank you, Anthony.
All right, no problem.
ICW with his Breakfast Club shirt on. That's
right.
awesome.
That's right.
Sean Prime, one of the best going in Florida, best going around on the indie wrestling. Sean, talk about Rusty Brooks. What he's meant to you, first of all.
Without Rusty Brooks, there wouldn't be a Sean Prime. Before Rusty, I was just a kid like everybody else. I had a little bit of training in me, but I didn't know what I was doing in the ring, and Rusty was the one who really helped me pull it all together. Rusty Brooks helped me get it. He helped me put all the skills and everything that was there, but very rough, and he helped me refine it, because you know, you can teach anybody to go in the ring and do moves, but to generate an emotional reaction out of somebody, it's an art form, and Rusty Brooks is what did that for me. If it wasn't for Rusty, there'd be no wrestling in South Florida. If it wasn't for Rusty, there might not be wrestling in Florida. Rusty's influenced, at least as far as I know, 2-3 generations worth of workers. I mean, just look at the WWE and all the people that have gone through Rusty Brooks and made it. Gangrel, Norman. It's awesome. So no, Rusty's everything, and I will never not be appreciative for everything he's done for me.
What was Rusty like as a coach and trainer?
Firm but fair. Firm but fair. Unlike most guys, when I started working out with him and started really kind of training with him and kind of going over there and spending full time, there were plenty of students, but I was already kind of a worker, but again, so rough as far as I didn't know how to put it all together. So for me, he treated me he saw that I knew what I was doing, but that I didn't know how to put it together. So there was a little bit, I guess, more patience, but at the same point he expected more out of me. And when I did screw up, he was hard, and I will always appreciate that, because that's the only way I can learn is when you're you know, the voice gets raised, because you know, with Sean Prime, what do you expect? You got to yell at me for me to get anything. But no, absolutely swear that if it wasn't for Rusty Brooks, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now.
Sean, thank you so much.
You're absolutely welcome.
We're at Ronin Pro Wrestling. It was a great night of action, unbelievable. Good job by this man, Trevor.
Thank you.
And everybody involved in Ronin. What I want to talk to you about is Rusty Brooks. So Trevor, tell us about the School of Hard Knocks, first of all, what it was like training there.
It definitely was an experience. It was, you know, we came over to Rusty's, and it was funny because we didn't really know what to expect, because it was pro wrestling school and it's not something everyone does. I remember we went to the back, we pulled into the house, Rusty's house, and there was training going on. and there was about a dozen guys there working out, just running drills, doing moves, body slams and suplexes. And that got us really hooked. And it was really cool working with Rusty because Rusty is he's a very open-minded with wrestling. He's, he did a lot of work in the 80s, and he's a big fan of the old school, that old school mentality, but he also understands that wrestling is evolving, and he had no problem with working with us and then evolving it as far as our gimmicks and our styles. And being able to keep the old school psychology with the new style of wrestling that today's fans are seeing.
What did you think about Rusty as the person? This is the thing. Wasn't just a guy. Hey, give me your money.
Yeah.
I'll train you, and here we go. I mean, there's more than that.
Rusty, we spent more time in his house, talking to him and picking his brain, and instead of actually being in the ring with him, because we would bring DVDs. We'd be like, Rusty, you got to check out these DVDs. And then Rusty, he'd roll his eyes and be like, oh, you guys with your new stuff and these, But he'll watch them with us, and he would sit there and he would go, okay, well, that was good, but I like that. And if you want to do something like this, try this. And he was very, he was very open, and he was willing to work with us because he took, a lot of schools are very cookie cutter, where the guy, the instructor will mold their students the way that they were trained. And you got guys that do a lot of the same things. But Rusty was a lot different. Rusty took certain guys and got their personality, got their gimmick, and they rolled with it. Rusty was a big guy, but he was able to work and train a lot of the high flyers. He was able to train a lot of the grapplers and the submissionists, the submission technicians. So he was very well-rounded as far as doing that too.
You still talk to Rusty, get advice from him. You're running your own shows now and all. So
yeah.
How much of a part of Rusty has been?
I always try to keep in touch the best I can with Rusty. We go out and see him sometimes. There's always time where we go out and have lunch or dinner with him. I'm always encouraging Rusty to come to the show. I always invite him to the show, and he definitely puts over the shows. It's really cool to get the compliments from Rusty, the guy that's booked and promoted all from in Florida and out of state, and who worked with the WWE, and then to come and say how impressed he was and how much he enjoyed the show. It's a really good feeling. Not just for it being Rusty, but to be my trainer, my instructor. So it's definitely rewarding to have Rusty be able to watch, teaching me how to bump to now watching me do something like this.
Ronin Pro Wrestling, Trevor, website or social media? What do we got?
You can find Ronin Pro Wrestling online over at roninprowrestling.com. You can find us on Facebook, facebook.com/Ronin Pro Wrestling. And then we're on Twitter and Instagram. Our Twitter and Instagram handles are at RoninPW. One word.
Thank you, Trevor.
Cool. Thank you, sir.
ICW here in Miami. George, you got to tell me. Talk about Rusty Brooks. What he means to you, what he means to South Florida.
Listen, Rusty is the legend of South Florida. He's trained 90% of this locker room has been trained by Rusty Brooks. I was trained by Rusty Brooks. Everything we've learned is something that Rusty has given us, and his son works for us. He's still, he's here backstage. He's here backstage helping people go over their stuff and making sure that they work on their character, that they work on their in-ring prowess. Rusty's like family. My best friend and we call Rusty our second dad. When he got sick, he said, we got to go visit the old man. We care about him more than we care about a lot of people in this world. He's given us the chance to perform in front of this audience by opening the doors to the School of Hard Knocks. He let us in, and we became a family. This family of ICW is here. I thank him. Lucha Fest 1 would have happened without him, and now we're in Lucha Fest 4 in the biggest crowd we've ever worked in front of. And again, this is all because of what Rusty gave to us in the ring. Personally, he's been there for us like a father figure to everybody that's walked out of his building. Like tonight is a perfect example. Guys from Gangrel, the Vampire Warrior that have been wrestling since the early 90s, trained by Rusty Brooks. Guys like Alex Aztec is one of his last students, trained by Rusty Brooks. And the legacy will continue with his son, and I hope that the legacy continues with us here in ICW. As once again, we call him our father, and I believe we're trying to give back to wrestling like Rusty gave back to us.
Thank you, George.
No problem. Thank you.